introduce Vera and Amanda doing sign language interpretation on the side of the stage. And then also, if you have a question for this story, we have two Mike gentlemen, Stefano and Gordon on either side. So if you just line up, we'll try to get to as many of your questions as you can. So if you just line up with them and pick your questions, that would be great. Let's bring them out. Perhaps one of the most beloved figures in the world of pop culture and genre, the man behind everything from Fantastic Four to Spider-Man to Thor and the Hulk. Please welcome to FanExpo, Stan Lee! It's great to see you, Stan. Thank you so much for coming out to FanExpo. We're going to have some questions from the floor. But first, I just want to ask you, when you got involved in comics at age 17, did you ever have a sense that it would become what it has in terms of the popularity of superheroes? Does it blow you away?
I'm going to show you why I'm such a good guest, because I give clever answers. No.
What motivated you when you first got started? When did you think, I want to create these amazing heroes, these amazing characters?
What motivated me? Greed. I wanted to get paid for them.
Awesome. Well, FanExpo is about the fans, so let's open it up to questions. We'll start on this side. Hello?
Hi. I was wondering, what was your thought process when you created the Hulk, and how do you feel about how it's changed over the years?
My process in creating him, I wanted to get somebody like the monster in Frankenstein. I don't know if you remember the Boris Karloff Frankenstein movie, but it always looked to me like the monster was the good guy. He didn't want to hurt anybody, but those idiots with torches were always chasing him up and down the hills. So I thought it would be fun to get somebody who's kind of like a monster, but he's really good, but misunderstood. So that was the Hulk. And what was the other part of the question?
How do you feel about how he's changed or evolved over the years?
I feel good.
Do you like Mark Ruffalo as the Hulk? As Bruce Banner?
Oh yeah, he's wonderful. He's the best Hulk so far. I don't know what you're the best Hulk.
Over on this side, Gordon, if you have somebody. Hello.
Hi. George R. R. Martin, when he was younger, wrote me letters. Remember those letters to you?
The creator of Game of Thrones, George R. Martin, apparently wrote you letters when he was a kid. Oh, it's okay. The creator of Game of Thrones, George R. Martin, apparently wrote you letters. Yeah. Do you remember that when he was a kid?
I don't remember it, but it was all over the internet. So I'd like to meet him and thank him, but I haven't. He doesn't go to comic conventions, does he? I haven't run into him yet, but if any of you run into him, tell him thanks a lot for the great publicity.
The letters from fans that you received over the years, what do they mean to you?
Oh, they meant everything to me. That fan mail was the greatest because it was like they were doing my job for me. They told me what stories they liked. They told me the kind of stories they don't like. Made my job easy. All I had to do was write the kind of stories they liked. It was the easiest thing in the world.
Over on this side, hello.
Hello, how are you?
Very well, thank you. Nice of you to inquire.
Well, thank you very much for all the writing you've done because it's been a pleasure reading. Now, has there ever been a character that you've created or wanted to create but never got a chance to actually fulfill?
Actually, no. I was the editor, so I could write any characters I wanted. So whatever I wanted, I wrote. So I'd love to make it sound like I'm very frustrated and there are some great ideas I've had that I never was able to do. But there aren't. Everything I thought of, I did. Now I can just relax and go to conventions.
Over on this side, hello.
Hi, I was wondering, what is your favorite character that you did not create?
Favorite character, but that you didn't create.
I don't have any favorites I didn't create. I like Sherlock Holmes. I don't know if any of you ever heard of Scarlet Pimpernel, but that was the first superhero that I really loved. And I know you really want me to mention a comic character, a comic strip character, don't you? Well, I'll be honest with you. I kind of like Batman. I think he's and Superman, the only thing that bothered me about Superman was every time he would take off his glasses, people would say, Superman, where did Clark Kent go? Smart.
Do you have a favorite that you've created?
Oh, all of mine are my favorites. But probably if I have to mention a favorite, it would be Spider-Man. Tell him how enthusiastic your applause was when I mentioned his name.
How did you come up with Spider-Man?
With great difficulty. But I'm going to tell you the story about Spider-Man. And you may all take notes if you wish. We had done a couple of other books, I forget which, probably the Fantastic Four, maybe the Hulk, X-Men, I don't know. But at one point my publisher said to me, hey, these things are doing pretty well. Give me another superhero. I want a new one. Well, when he said that, I had to do it or else I was in trouble because he was paying my salary. So I went home and I tried to think, what other character can I get? It seemed to me there were no superpowers left. With the Fantastic Four, we had the Thing, who was the strongest guy around. We had the Torch, who could fly and burst into flame. We had an invisible girl with a force field. And we had a guy whose body could stretch. I figured, what's left? So I'm sitting around scratching my head. I sometimes scratch my head. And I see a fly on the wall. And that was it. I said, wow. What if we had a superhero who could stick to walls like a fly? So I figured, well, what would I call him? I didn't like the name The Fly. Mosquito Man, Insect Man, and then I thought of Spider-Man. It just sounded dramatic and a little scary. So, okay, I had my name, but now I had to figure out who and what is he. So I thought, just for fun, I'd make him a teenager, because there were no teenage heroes that I knew of then. Then I felt I'd give him a lot of personal problems, because again, none of the characters they had around in those days had personal problems. So I went the next morning running into my publisher's office to tell him this great idea I had. And after I finished telling him, he said to me, in words that will live forever, Stan, that is the worst idea I've ever heard. He said, first of all, you can't call a hero Spider-Man because people hate spiders. He said, you can't make him a teenager. A teenager can only be a sidekick. And you can't give him personal problems. He's a superhero, for crying out loud. They don't have personal problems. So I went back to my office with my tail between my legs. Anyway, we had a book we were going to kill called Amazing Fantasy. Now, when you kill a book, nobody cares what you put in the last issue. So just to get Spider-Man out of my system, I had Steve Ditko do a Spider-Man story. I gave him a plot. And I put it in Amazing Fantasy, put it on the cover, so at least I had done it. I figured the publisher, Martin, he'd never notice. And we published it. Well, a month later, we would get our sales figures every other month or something like that. When the sales figures came in, Martin came running into my office. He said, Stan, do you remember that character Spider-Man that we both loved so much? He said, let's make a series of it. And that's how Spidey was born.
Oh.
We'll go over on this side.
Hi Stan, my name is Andrew. Thank you so much for everything that you've given us all. My question is about, when I was a kid, I always loved watching Saturday morning cartoons, The Incredible Hulk and Spidey and his friends, and at the end of every episode, you always said, Excelsior. Where did that come from, and can you please say Excelsior?
Excelsior. Oh. Excelsior. What happened was, when I was writing the fan mail pages in my little Stan Soapbox column, I would always end with some corny expression I use, like I say, face front, or enough said, or any little thing. And I found that in the competition magazines, they were using my expressions. They were copying them. And I didn't like that. So I said, I'm going to come up with something. They won't know what it means. They won't know how to spell it. And I noticed the state of New York. I lived in New York. The Great Seal on the state of New York has the word Excelsior on it. And that really means, it's a beautiful thing. It means upward and onward to greater glory. So I started using Excelsior, and I guess I was right. They didn't know what it meant, they didn't know how to spell it, and nobody's bothered with it. So it's mine.
Hello. Stan, I think if you could be personal with us, just figure speaking, if this was your last night on Earth, what would you say to the fans?
Weird question.
Goodbye.
Over on this side.
I also want to say thanks, Stan, for all the stuff that you've given us and all how important you've been to all of our lives. But my question was, besides friends and family, what makes Stan Lee happy? What are you a fan of?
Besides your friends and family, what makes you happy? What are you a fan of?
I think coming to conventions like this, because I can't believe there are so many wonderful people who care that much about these stories and the comic books and movies and television and entertainment, and it's just, I love it. I mean, I wish I could go to a convention every day. This makes me very happy.
Hi, I was wondering if you would ever make a Black Widow movie.
We haven't made a Black Widow movie, but she's been in some of our movies, and she'll be featured more prominently as we move along. And the chances are there eventually will be a Black Widow movie, because all of our characters, sooner or later, are going to have their own features. We're already working on Ant-Man and Doctor Strange and the Black Panther and others I'm not allowed to talk about.
Why do you think this current crop of Marvel movies have done so well?
Because they're wonderful. They're fun to watch. The characters are interesting. They're beautifully directed and photographed and acted. And see, I can't tell. I never know what other people like. I can only judge by what I like. And I figure if I like something, I'm not that unique. There must be a lot of other people who have the same taste. And I know I love these movies. I can't wait till they come out. I can't wait to see them. so they must be good.
On this side, hello.
Hi, if you could make a DC character before they did, who would it be and how would you have done it differently?
No, it's funny you say that. I don't know why, but years ago, DC Comics asked me if I would write my version of their top characters. And I forget what they printed them. It was a series they had. It was called something like, What If Stan Lee Had Created Superman? What If Stan Lee Had Created Batman? And there was one, and I wrote my own version of Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, The Flash, the Green Lantern, and a few others that I've forgotten. And the terrible thing about it, the stories I wrote were good, and they were illustrated beautifully, but there's no way that DC can make movies of them, because that would be putting down their own characters the way they are. So those books are just there, they sold well, but they couldn't turn into movies. I feel sorry for DC. They make great movies.
That series is Just Imagine, if you want to check it out.
Just Imagine.
Yeah. Over on this side, hello.
Hello, Mr. Lee. I was wondering, what do you think of how other comic book writers have handled your characters over the years?
How other
It's funny, sometimes it comes through loud and clear, and sometimes the microphones don't work well. What do I think about the way other writers have handled my characters over the years? Pretty good. I'll be very honest with you. I keep so busy now with so many other things, I don't really have time to read the comic books anymore. I look at the covers, and very often when I'm at a convention, I'm doing autographing, people give me a cover to sign, and it'll be a cover I never saw before. Usually, most of them are covers I never saw before because they're new ones. And I never have the time to look at the book because the guy is there, I gotta sign it, and there's somebody else in line, so I gotta give him back the book. And I wish you people would wait and give me a chance. Actually, we have the top writers in the business. And even though I don't really have time to read the stuff anymore, I'm sure they're great. They must be, because the books are selling like there's no tomorrow.
Of the artists you work with over the years, do you have a favorite memory of working with Jack Kirby?
Oh gosh, I have favorite memories of all of them. Jack Kirby was incredible. He was so imaginative. When I mentioned I wanted a villain called Galactus, before I was finished telling him about it, he had drawn the character, and he was great. And Jack had a way of drawing. It was as though the drawing was already on the page, and he was tracing it. Because he would just start, do the drawing, go on to the next drawing. He never went over it. He never erased it and changed it. Whatever he put down was sort of perfect, and he just kept going. And then there was John Buscema, who was like the Michelangelo of the comics. This guy could draw figures like nobody else. And there was Gene Colan and John Romita,